Hello friends, this video on electrochemistry part 4 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So let's understand this Daniell cell. So this Daniell cell again has zinc and copper as electrodes. So if you see there are two electrodes. Zinc, understand the color of the zinc, it looks like almost like silver. And copper, you must have seen copper in your house. And the reaction in this is zinc plus copper sulfate gives zinc sulfate and copper. That's the whole reaction in the Daniell cell. So if you see zinc has more reactive than copper, we have seen just now. So zinc becomes Zn2 plus and copper is reduced to copper plus is reduced to copper, right? So here again we'll first anode, we have this anode cathode issue. So we'll first write anode and ox and red cat. The memory tip we have, right? So anode is where oxidation will take place and reduction is where reduction takes place at cathode. We'll see where it happens, right? So we'll see what is the oxidation reaction. So if we see zinc to Zn plus 2 is what? Oxidation reaction, correct? So that is nothing but anode. And copper plus to copper is a reduction reaction that will happen at cathode. Correct? This thing we know now. So we have something called anode, we have something called cathode. Now, the way it works is, this was designed by John Daniell in 1836. He was the British chemist actually, and the main thing he was trying to do is he was trying to remove that hydrogen bubble problem. So that in the voltaic cell, because voltaic pile actually, so in the voltaic pile also used to generate electricity, but that had this hydrogen bubble problem. So he was trying to eliminate that, and the potential for this is 1.1 volt. We'll see that. And please note, all the concentration is 1 molar. 1 mole, this is zinc sulfate, 1 mole, this is copper sulfate. So what is done here is 1 mole of copper sulfate, this is, sorry, the blue one, is dipped in copper rod, or here we have a zinc rod dipped in 1 mole of zinc sulfate. Correct? So I have, this is my zinc rod and this is my copper rod. As I told, zinc rod, zinc gets oxidized, so it has to be anode. So this has to be anode. Similarly, copper sulfate is reduced to copper, so this has to be a cathode. Correct? Till this point it's clear. So what we have done is, or what John Daniell did is, he took this zinc in zinc sulfate, copper and copper sulfate. Please note, zinc in zinc sulfate, copper and copper sulfate. Pretty easy, right? This is zinc in zinc sulfate solution, copper and copper sulfate solution, and they are in two different beakers, separated by salt bridge. I'll tell you why the salt bridge is used. Now what is happening here is, zinc we have in zinc sulfate solution, correct? But the zinc has a tendency to become Zn2 plus, correct? So zinc from this, if you see, the zinc metal is diminished. Why? Because the zinc from this metal will try to become Zn2 plus by giving out 2 electrons, correct? And that Zn2 plus will come in this solution. So I'll get 2 electrons here, right? I get 2 electrons here in this metal. These 2 electrons will pass, you see, this is the direction of electron flow, and will come back here. So here we'll get back 2 electrons through this wire. And that is what we are trying to achieve in the electrochemistry, right? We are trying to have this chemical reaction. We are trying to make the electron pass through an external circuit, and this electron will produce electricity. Correct? So the same reaction we have seen, right? We have zinc dipped in a copper sulfate solution, where we just saw, right, the reaction happens. But there also electron transfer took place, but the electricity was not produced because the electron transfer was the internal. So here we are trying to do one thing. We are just separating this chemical reaction, trying to make sure, trying to design this electrochemical setup in such a way that the electron is forced to transfer in an external circuit. So if you see here, zinc had tendency to become Zn2 plus. So this zinc here became Zn2 plus. It gave 2 electrons. So electron was somewhere here only. So electron was in this metal, zinc metal, and got transferred through this wire, and the bulb blew, and now the electron came back. Right? Since the electron came back, now this electron will be used by copper sulfate solution. This is the copper sulfate, right? Copper sulfate solution. This copper sulfate will take these electrons, 2 electrons, and will form copper, right? This copper sulfate this copper plus will take this 2 electron. See, copper plus will take this 2 electron, will become copper. So reduction will happen here. Zinc, as I told, zinc will become Zn plus 2 and give some 2 electrons. These 2 electrons transfer to this circuit, and this transfer of electron will produce electricity. And please note, the transfer of electron and transfer of current is in the opposite direction. So the electron is transferring in this direction, the current will transfer in this direction. Correct? And now what will happen is, after this reaction happens, if you see, there will be a lot of Zn plus 2 ions here. Right? There will be a lot of Zn plus 2 ions in this. Correct? And here they'll have a lot of SO4 minus ions, because this CuSO4, if you see, strong electrolyte, it will easily break into Cu plus 2 and SO4 2 minus. Cu plus 2 is being used, but SO4 2 minus is still there. Correct? So that will have a lot of SO4 2 minus, and this will have a lot of Zn plus 2 minus. So there will be a difference in charge, right? And that is not good. So what will happen is, we need something to neutralize the charge, and for this we need something called salt bridge. So there is a salt bridge here. There is nothing but it has some ions, and it is an inverted tube, right? So it is prepared by filling agar-agar KCl. This is agar KCl mixture. It's a U-shaped tube made of glass. So generally 3 agar-agar solution dissolved in 100 ml of KCl solution, and they don't react chemically with this species. For example, this agar-agar and KCl solution will not react with SO4 2 minus ion or with Zn plus 2 ion. They won't react, right, chemically. And this is just to maintain the electrical neutrality in the solution. This has become a lot of positive, lot positive, this solution, and this solution has become lot negative solution. This is positive solution. To maintain the neutrality, what has happened is, the salt bridge, through this salt bridge, here we have SO4 2 minus, right? It will flow in this direction, and here we have Zn plus 2, lot of Zn plus 2, it will flow in this direction. So you want to see the animation? This is the animation. So if you see, the electrons, the green is my electrons here, the electron is flowing in this direction, lot of SO4 2 minus here in this beaker, the right beaker, which is copper sulfate, and a lot of Zn plus 2 ions on the left. So to maintain the neutrality, if you see, to the salt bridge, Zn plus 2 ions is going in this direction, and SO4 2 minus is going in this direction, in the salt bridge, and the electron is moving in this direction, so the current is going in this direction, right? So electron going left to right, and the current going right to left. So that is the whole flow of Daniell cell. So the main objective behind such a great construction was to make sure that the electron flows, the electron which is generated from this reaction. For example, if you just keep this zinc and copper sulfate in a container, this reaction will happen. Electron transfer happens, but this electron transfer is not being utilized for a useful purpose. So the way it is, the good part here is this, in this case, is the cell is constructed in such a manner that this is used, right? the cell transfer, the electron transfer, the electrons is being used to generate electricity. So this electron, for example, here if you see, the electron came in this plate because zinc became Zn2 plus, and we got 2 electrons here, right? 2 electrons here, 2 electrons we got here. Why? Because zinc became Zn2 plus, and these 2 electrons now move in this direction. So once we have electrons here, these electrons here in the right hand side is used by this copper sulfate solution, right? So it becomes copper, and this copper gets deposited here, but this SO42 minus is extra here. This SO42 minus here extra, and this Zn plus 2 here extra. They create a charge difference. The salt bridge helps to maintain the neutrality. Zn2 plus goes in this direction, SO42 minus goes in this direction. The salt bridge is made in such a way that the chemical inside this is chemically inactive or inert to these species. So here I have KCl with agar-agar, and this KCl is not reacted to Zn plus 2 or SO42 minus. Correct. So if we talk about this is my oxidation reaction, the reaction that happens at anode, because ox is my anode, and this is my reduction reaction that happens at cathode. And this is the whole reaction. If you merge these two reactions, right, if you add these two reactions, if you get this reaction, if you see Zn plus Cu2 plus, adding both on the left hand side, you get this Zn plus 2, and copper on the right hand side, you get Zn plus 2 and copper on the right hand side. 2 electrons will get cancelled. Correct. So this is my oxidation half reaction, reduction half reaction, and I have a total reaction. So I have 3 reactions here: oxidation half reaction, reduction half reaction, and when you add these two, oxidation half reaction and reduction half reaction, you get the net reaction of this Daniell cell. Please understand this Daniell cell, because if you understand the concept of Daniell cell, we can understand the concepts of other cells which we'll be discussing. A little improvement over the Daniell cell, right? Zinc plus copper sulfate solution, reaction happens. Zinc is more reactive. Zinc becomes Zn plus 2, and copper plus becomes copper. This is we know. Now the challenge was to make this reaction happen in such a way that the electron flows in the circuit, so that we can use this to generate electricity. And that's what it is done here. Zinc becomes Zn plus 2 because zinc has tendency to become Zn plus 2. 2 electrons are released here, right? This electrons transfer to the circuit. You get 2 electrons here. These 2 electrons are being used by now copper plus in this solution to create copper, and copper gets deposited here. So if we see over a period of time, you'll see more and more copper here and less zinc here. And since here in this zinc, if you see lot of electrons were there, so we gave a negative charge to this node. See here, negative charge. Why? Because there were lot of electrons here. It got negative charge. Here we had deficiency of electrons being used. It got a positive charge. Please note, in chemistry we only talk about anode and cathode. Anode where oxidation take place, cathode where reduction take place. Positive and negative charge you have to actually calculate based on this reaction, where you are getting more electron density, that becomes negative charge, where you get electron deficit area, that becomes positive charge. Now we'll see the Daniell cell as electrolytic cell. Now please note here is the Daniell cell voltage, as I told you, is 1.1 volt, right? Now if you apply a potential, opposite potential here, right? If you apply a opposite potential here, what will happen? So things will change. Example, if you see, electron will flow in this direction because the potential I have applied here, this is more than 1.1 volt. This is, let's suppose, 5 volt. And this cell was 1.1 volt. So net, if you see, is this is the bigger or stronger battery. So this is a stronger battery if it is more than 1.1 volt, because this whole thing is 1.1 volt. This is 5 volt is more than obviously 1.1 volt. This is a stronger battery. This will rule. So it has negative charge here. So you have put it here and you put this here, right? So in this case, what will happen is the electron will flow in this direction, correct? You know, there is a battery here. This is a positive charge, negative charge. The electron flows from negative to positive, and the current flows in the other way direction, right? So electron flows in this direction, current flows in this direction. So electron flows in this direction. Now at this point, when you provide a more voltage to this Daniell cell, it works as electrolytic cell. We will discuss electrolytic cell in more details actually, where we use this for a non-spontaneous reaction. Here what will happen is, since it has got electrons here, so Zn2 plus in the solution will become zinc if there is some, and here it has got more deficit of electrons, so here copper will get oxidized to copper plus. So if you see, this is non-spontaneous reaction, right? Typically zinc will not try to become Zn plus to this Zn is a non-spontaneous, it will not happen, right? Similarly Cu2 plus is a non-spontaneous if you compare copper and zinc in the same solution, because zinc is more reactive. But this reaction will happen if you apply external current. So this was a non-spontaneous reaction. It will happen if you apply external current. So if you see, this is now a non-spontaneous reaction which is happening because of the external electrical energy, and that is nothing but my electrolytic cell. Correct. Thank you. Visit examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online tests, get free study materials, find tutors and mentors, and much more. Thanks once again.